presenters, as you know, our regular moderator of the program, Dr. Bob Stein, who is an experienced museum docent, and he is also a cardiologist. He's a member of the board of San Diego Chinese Historical Museum. And our second speaker is Leland Sun, who is the #1 great-grandson of Dr. Sun Yat Sen, also known as Sun Wen. Our discussants come from Northern California, Connie Yong Yu. Her grandfather, Yong Soon Kun, was the head of the Revolutionary Party of Dr. Sun Yat Sen in San Jose. She is an independent historian of Chinese American history for over half a century. She is also author of Chinatown, San Jose, USA, and director of the Dr. Sun at Liberty Door, An American Legacy. We have Dr. Busaba Yip Douglas. She served as the former cultural director and docent of the Wuhing Museum, Society, Hall, and Cookhouse. And I am the chair of the San Diego Chinese Historical Museum Board, also the founding director of the San Diego State University Chinese Cultural Center. Welcome to the program. The first speaker is Dr. Bob Stein. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much for the introduction. And this is something different for me. Here I am doing a presentation, a brief one, because we have so many other speakers, rather than being the moderator. And I'm happy to give a little background of Dr. Sun Yat Sen's life. And those stamps are from my stamp collection. And it's an interesting thing. We're here to honor and discuss his extraordinary life. I thought that I might compare him to other leaders of different countries and revolutions, but it turns out Dr. Sun is unique amongst them all and stands alone, so I'm not going to do it. So I'm going to do my part, and then Busaba Yip will be speaking from Hawaii about the Hawaiian connection. And then we've got Leland Sun, his great-grandson. And then we've got Connie Yu, who also is going to be speaking. And so we're going to have a wonderful presentation. If I can have the next slide, please. So Dr. Sun's life, in a nutshell, was cut short by cancer of his biliary tree, and he died in his 50s in 1925. But before that, he was a revolutionary, he was a statesman. He founded a political party, the Kuomintang, in the 1890s while he was in Hawaii. He became a doctor. It turns out that the medical business was interesting for a couple of reasons. We'll get to it when I talk about it. But it actually indirectly saved his life. And he was one of the main people who's credited with overthrowing the Qing dynasty, ending over 2,000 years of Chinese dynastic rule. And then shortly after he became the first president of the Republic of China, he relinquished that role to one of the warlords, General Yuan Shikai. And then he spent the rest of his life working with the Kuomintang and with attempting to challenge the warlords. So if I can have the next slide. So Dr. Sun was born in Guangdong province, and you might be wondering why I have a picture of our San Diego Chinese Historical Museum there, but we'll get to that in a minute. And he had an older brother named Sun Mei, and it's going to turn out that Busaba is going to be chatting about that further. And he went to Hawaii to live with his brother, where his brother had property. And he went to the Iolani School, and then he went to the Punahou School and received actually a prize for scholastic excellence from none other than King Kalakaua in Hawaii. So an interesting side issue. And then he returned to China and was baptized as a Christian by Reverend Charles Hager, who was a missionary of the Congregational Church of America. And that's the connection with our San Diego Chinese Historical Museum. As people know, our museum actually was built in the 1920s as a mission dormitory and church and assembly hall by the very same Congregationalists who are from New England and are actually the direct descendants of the Pilgrims. And they morphed into Congregationalists and then split off into Unitarians and Congregationalists and then merged with United Church of Christ. But that group is the group that converted Dr. Sun. And so that's why I have a picture of our museum, and I also have a picture of coins commemorating Dr. Sun's life. If I may have the next slide, I want to talk about his medical education. And he was educated by a physician named John Glasgow Kerr, who was a graduate of Jefferson Medical College. And it turns out that's with the 6 degrees of separation. That's how I fit into this. That's why I have my picture there. I also am a graduate of Jefferson Medical College. And on this call, we have at least one other graduate of Jefferson Medical College, Lockwood Young, who's a faithful listener who lives in Honolulu. I want to shout out to Lockwood right now. And then Dr. Kerr trained in a number of Chinese doctors, and he also trained Dr. Sun for a year. And then Dr. Sun moved to Hong Kong College of Medicine for Chinese in 1887 and became a doctor. And he practiced in Macau and Guangzhou in the 1890s and briefly as well in Hawaii, but he abandoned medicine to be a revolutionary. And as you'd expect, he was known for providing free care and free medicine to people who couldn't afford it, and was very well thought of as a doctor. And by metaphor, Dr. Sun thought of his profession as suitable for his life as a revolutionary, healing a sick country. So it's sort of an interesting metaphor that Dr. Sun found was very natural to him. So, but that was an interesting thing. If I could have the next slide. Even in medical school, he had revolutionary friends, and they were called the Four Bandits. And in the 1890s, he and his colleagues petitioned the Qing Viceroy with ideas for modernizing China. After going to China, he founded the Revived China Society in the 1890s, which then developed into the Tongmenghui in 1905 while he was in Japan, and then ultimately into the Kuomintang, which we're aware of today. After China's defeat in the Sino-Japanese War of 1895, Dr. Sun favored a revolution to replace the dynastic system back in 1895, although that failed to work at that time. So he, even from medical school, was more interested in revolution and modernizing the Chinese society than he was in medicine. It's interesting that he was of a single mind from youth. which is absolutely amazing. And as you'd expect, because of his revolutionary thinking and writings, he was a wanted man by the Qing dynasty, and he went into exile. If I could have the next slide, please. And he went into exile for more or less 16 years between 1895 and 1911. And the plaque on the right is affixed to a building in London when he lived in London. And he lived in a variety of places. And when he traveled the globe, he was traveling the globe to get interest in the idea of a Chinese revolution, to raise money, and to organize revolutionary groups. While in London in 1896, he was actually kidnapped. And he was kidnapped by Imperial Chinese Secret Service agents. And for 13 days, they kept him, and they were going to ship him back to mainland China, and he was likely going to be executed. And interestingly, it was his medical school years that saved him, because one of the doctors, one of the professors, was a gentleman named Dr. James Cantley, and Dr. James Cantley came back from Hong Kong to London, and he lived the rest of his life in London towards the rest of his years. And Dr. Cantley saved him by public pressure, and so he was ultimately released by the agents. And then he went to the United States as well to raise funds, and he established chapters of the Revived China Society and later Kuomintang, and there were chapters in cities throughout the world. While in Japan, as I mentioned, he created an area called the United League by uniting a bunch of revolutionary factions, and it was called the Tongmenghui, and that played a major role in the overthrow of the Qing dynasty. If we could have the next slide, please. In our museum, we have models of P-40 and P-47 fighter jets that were used in World War II in the China-Burma-India theater. And the planes were basically lent to China, and the insignia on the chain is this. And when I give a tour, I always ask people if they know why the insignia looks the way it does. And most people are not able to answer. Occasionally, people know. And this is the symbol of the Kuomintang, which actually became a symbol for China itself for a number of years. And we'll get to that in a second. So if I could have the next slide, please. So while in China, and Busab is going to talk about this further, excuse me, I meant to say while in Hawaii, Dr. Sun formed the Revived China Society. And then, as I mentioned, in 2005, founded the Tongmenghui organization. So it sort of morphed into that. And then the Xinhai Revolution of 1911 occurred, fully supported by his organizations. And Sun was seen as a leader of the organization, and hence became the first president. And so even though the revolution was decentralized, Sun was certainly a preeminent person. And as mentioned, Sun didn't have the army, but General Yuan Shikai did. And so they, under an arrangement, shortly after the first president established January 1st, 1912, General Yuan became the next president in March, and helped or or forced the abdication of the last emperor, Puyi, in February of 1912. And then Sun became party chairman in 1912, in exile in Japan, established the Chinese Revolutionary Party, and then it ultimately morphed into the more modern Kuomintang in 1919. And if I could have the next slide. So post Dr. Sun, because Dr. Sun sadly died in 1925, the Kuomintang was led by two other groups. And then Chiang Kai-shek became the president, and he had the power. He was superintendent of the Whampoa Military Academy, and he ultimately, through the northern campaigns, conquered the warlords in the late 1920s. And then Chiang became head of the Republic of China, first on the mainland and then in Taiwan. He fought with the Chinese Communist Party and expelled them from the KMT in 1927, 1928. So Mao Zedong, then, who we think of as the face of the Chinese Communist Party back then, was actually a member of the KMT until he was expelled. And then after World War II ended in 1945, war became full-fledged civil war between the communists and the nationalists, culminating in the Chinese Communist Party victory in 1949 and Chiang and the KMT moving to Taiwan. And to this day, in 2026, the KMT continues to be a major political force in Taiwan, rivaling the Democratic Progressive Party. So it's an interesting chapter. And so that explains the symbol of the sun on the stamps that you saw at the first slide, and you'll see the stamps on the last slide, and it explains the insignia on the model airplanes in our museum exhibit. If I could have the next slide, please. So the Xinhai Revolution actually occurred October 10th, while Dr. Sun was in Denver, because he was a peripatetic guy. He just moved constantly. And he was in Denver getting support and finances from Americans. And then he heard about the uprising and left immediately for China, arriving in December. And then, as mentioned, Yuan ran the army, and after getting Puyi to abdicate, was promised a presidency. And General Yuan was apparently a character. He declared himself the emperor in 1915. And then Sun cooperated with the Chinese Communist Party. Back in the day, it was all about power and how to progress and how to hasten democracy and how to defeat Yuan. And the Russians actually worked hand in hand with the KMT in the 1920s. I had given a talk a number of months back, some of you may remember it, about Jewish figures in the 20th century in China. And two of them were Adolf Joffe, who was the ambassador from Russia at the time, and another was Mikhail Borodin from Russia as well. And Sun's remains are in the Sun Yat Sen mausoleum at this time in Nanjing. And the next slide talks about his three principles of the people. And he devised this and tinkered with these ideas over the years. And three principles are nationalism, governance or democracy, and welfare rights. And nationalism is certainly obvious, namely the anti-imperialist independence movement and independence from foreign powers and independence from the Qing Manchus. And interestingly, in the nationalism, they had a flag with five colors on it. And this flag was the official Chinese flag from 1912 all the way through 1928. And the five colors represented the Han people in red, the Mongols in blue, Tibetan in black, the Manchus in yellow, and the Muslims in white. And the idea was five races under one union. And democracy was basically the power of the group over an individual, and elections and referendums and the like. And welfare rights dealt with people's welfare, people's livelihood, and how an ideal government would take care of the people in terms of food and clothing and housing and so forth. So these were his three principles, which are spoken of even today. And if I may have the last slide, and here are more stamps from my collection. And interestingly, Dr. Sun is equally revered in both mainland China as well as Taiwan. And his three principles are claimed as ideologies by both the Kuomintang under Chiang Kai-shek, as well as inspiration for the Chinese Communist Party under Mao Zedong. Of course, the two different governments differ on their interpretation of governance and their interpretation of welfare rights, but nevertheless, the inspiration remains the same for both. So, in short, Sun led a remarkable life, a life of inspiration and purpose. And here we are now, it's 101 years after Dr. Sun's death. And here we are scrutinizing every aspect of his life and writings, and we're enjoying our program. So I want to thank everybody for listening, and now we'll move on to our next speaker. Thank you.
Yes. So before we invite Leland's son to speak, I wanted to be sure that you know the names Sun Yat also Sun Wen, also Sun Zhongshan are the same person. Now, please, let's welcome, and we want to thank Dr. Bob Stein, but also welcome the number one great grandson of Dr. Sun Yat Sen, Leland. Would you join us now? Leland, how are you?
Fine, thank you. Thank you
Yes,
for having me at this Zoom conference.
yes. First of all, Dr. Bob talked about October 10th. It means double 10. And you can see the cover of the book, double 10. Would you like to start with that? You have a copy of it, right?
Yes, this Double 10 book is about, how do you say, Ansel O'Banion, who was enlisted by Homer Lee to help train the Chinese in the U.S. Ansel O'Banion established 11 cities across the United States, and each city was a military academy which recruited those Chinese who were living in America to undergo military training. And in fact, some of the sons and daughters who were living in China, their parents sent them to Mexico and up the coast of West Coast to also get training. And the ones from China spent at least 4 years working on farms and learning military science and tactics. After 4 years, the ones from China went back to China to teach other people. Now, Ansel O'Banion's Chinese in America, they also had 4 years of training, and they were sent back to China. Now, in the comings and goings of people from China or Chinese from America going back to China, it was all smuggled. How do you say? The customs officials, immigration never knew about it because it was everything hush hush. And eventually, after this book, Double Ten came out and was published, I guess in 1945, thereabouts. Um, the local authorities uh, arrested Ansel O'Banion, gave him a trial, and he spent, I believe, between 7 to 9 years in jail for his contribution to the Shandai Revolution. So um, you can still buy the copies, secondhand copies, on the internet. And I bought a few copies to one I gave to the, how do you say, Sun Yat Sen Home Museum in Choi Hang Chun or in Jungsan. And this year is the 160th anniversary of the birth of Sun Yat Sen. So normally mainland China, every 10 years, celebrates his birthday. And this year, being the 160th year, there will be great festivities in November in Beijing. And normally, the lucky guests invited to the uh, Double Ten and 160th anniversary will be arriving in Beijing, taken to Nanking, and then also Shanghai, Guangzhou, and then eventually down to Zhongshan. So it's a great celebration being planned. And on a side note, being that I've gone back to mainland China numerous times, over 20 times, and to Taiwan, oh, I gotta say, at least 60 times. Um, I'm in a position which I will try to, how do you say, unite mainland China and democratic Taiwan. And what I'm proposing is if uh, mainland China wants Taiwan back, they will have to accept Taiwan as a democratic province. So anyway, uh, now,
Okay, so next slide here. Would you talk about it, please?
yes.
Can
Oh,
you see the slide? Yes.
yes, Homer Lee. In fact, 2 days ago, I returned from Toronto and arrived at Los Angeles International Airport. And I normally park my car at the Los Angeles Airport Hilton. And so um, Dr. Gay Yuen, who's head of the Chinese American Museum of Los Angeles in the city of Los Angeles, arranged for Homer Lee's great grandson to meet me as I arrived back from Toronto. And together we had a dinner. And so he held a copy of his great grandfather's book by Lawrence Kaplan. And I also had a copy. And we were able to discuss, how do you say, what our great grandfathers did. And it was a very good meeting, dinner meeting. And we will, how do you say, help the Chinese American Museum of Los Angeles for their 6 month display about Dr. Sun Yat Sen and the Shanghai Revolution.
Wonderful. Next slide, please.
Yes, this is Ansel, Captain Ansel O'Banion. Uh, he was in the U.S. Army. How do you say? Fighting the Spaniards in the Philippines, and he returned. And as he was mustered out of the army, his colonel said, "If you ever get tired of Kansas, you can come out to Long Beach, and I'll teach you how to punch cattle." And subsequently, Ansel O'Banion got tired of Kansas and went down to Long Beach, California, and that's where Homer Lee was able to find Ansel O'Banion.
Next slide.
A close up of Ansel O'Banion uh, when he was just before he was mustered out of the U.S. Army.
Next slide.
My great grandfather in his younger days. Yes, speaking about my great grandfather, um, because Ansel O'Banion had set up these schools around the U.S. military schools, training Chinese in America, my great grandfather visited up and down the coast of California, visiting the different military academies. And my great grandfather also traveled around the world approximately 8 times trying to raise money.
Next slide.
Okay. Uh, uh, General Homer Lee. Um, he was, how do you say, um, as I read about Homer Lee, um, he had a curvature of the spine because his relative happened to drop Homer Lee down as a baby, and he fell in the hearth where the bricks were, and that's how he had curvature of the spine. But he went to school, LA High School, and then he attended Occidental College, and then he wanted to go into the military at Stanford University. And in fact, he even volunteered for the Boxer Rebellion, which the U.S. had part of the soldiers there in China, but he was turned down. But he did everything, Homer Lee did everything he could to become, I say, a great military tactician. Uh, Tactician meaning how to plan wars and fight and win wars. Next.
Next slide.
Oh, three generations of Dr. Sun Yat Sen. On the right of the picture with the glasses is my father, Xun Ziping. I'm wearing the green shirt, and then in front is my son, Brandon. Brandon is now 31, I'm 82, and my father has passed away. Next.
So, can we go back for a moment? Yeah.
Yeah,
So this is the number one son of the number one son of the number one son of Dr. Sun, right?
correct.
Uh-huh.
All
Okay.
firstborn.
Firstborn. Yes, yes. Thank you. Next.
Um, this this was in 2016, 10 years ago, and we happened to visit one of the homes that Sun Yat-sen lived in China. Um, yeah, as you see left to right, the gray coat is my daughter Chrisline Xunlan, Solan. Anyway, she lives in Taipei. The short one with the shiny dress is Jaylene's son, lives in Gardena. I'm wearing the leather jacket. My wife, Peggy, is wearing the red dress. Liana's son is, how do you say, on second from the right, and she is now got married, living in Hilo, and she has the Sun Yat Sen's um, sixth generation. cute little girl, Juniper. Uh, yeah. Anyway, and then at the very end is my son Brandon, who's 31, lives at home in Burbank, California, with me.
Yes. Let's talk about Burbank, California. Why do you live, or why did you choose to live in Burbank, California, Leland?
Um, well, let me backtrack. Uh, uh, I'm really backtracking. When I was 17, um, in high school, military school, my counselor told me to write a term paper, and I didn't know what subject to write on. And she said, "Why don't you write about your great grandfather, Dr. Sun Yat Sen?" I said, "What?" Um, in growing up from 1 years old to 17 years old, no one ever mentioned who Sun Yat Sen was. I was raised as a grandchild, child, and grandma and grandpa would talk to me in Cantonese, and my parents would talk to me in English, and nothing was said of who Sun Yat Sen was and how I fit in. And so eventually, how do you say, uh, I found out that because I had to write a term paper during Christmas vacation, I researched uh, 200 odd books at USC library, but I couldn't read all. And there was a few books with synopsis. So I was able to turn in a 38-page term paper in detail. And that was, how do you say, my learning of Dr. Sun Yat-sen.
And then what happened? I was asking you about Burbank.
Oh, okay. Yes.
Yes.
I graduated with a bachelor's in biochemistry, but in the mid 60s, a biochemist doesn't make too much money. My stepfather was in the movie Flower Drum Song as a singer. And my stepfather knew that I had trouble, how do you say, finding a summer job or any job. And because he was in the movie industry, he got me, he came over to my house and picked me up, and we drove down to the Screen Actors Guild. And that day, I became a movie extra, and I worked with Hollywood for about 37 years. I first did extra work, but then at that time, all the Asian actors had Caucasian stunt people doubling them. And how do you say, a few of the Asians who wanted to be stunt people would watch Caucasian and black stunt people, how they rehearsed and practiced. And so we therefore practiced, did what they did, and eventually um, we formed the Asian Stunts Association, and I did stunt work uh, near on 37 years. I got 4 pensions from the movie work, and that's how I got into Hollywood.
And you were part of the MASH
Yes,
uh,
I
movie
worked
series,
on
right?
MASH 11 years, uh, sometimes as a stunt person, other times as an actor, and also as a, how do you say, uh, extra, movie extra in MASH. And I had the, how do you say, my uh, acting part on MASH was I was Mr. Quang.
Mr. Quang. So for
Yes,
those of us who watched MASH, we now know who Mr. Quang was.
right.
Yes.
And uh, sometimes you'll see me walk by all in olive drab. with my bill flipped up. So anyway, it was good fun working with the actors.
Yes, yes.
Yes.
Also, can you say a few words about Yuan Shikai? I think you know his
Yes.
descendants as well.
Um, yes. When Bob was going through Yanjikai, granted, it's true that what Bob said, my great grandfather, Sun Yat Sen, and Yuan Shikai didn't get on because I say my great grandfather stepped down as provisional president so that Yuan Shikai can be a president, but Yuan Shikai wanted to be, a monarchy, like a king. But eventually, Yuan Shikai died in office. But Yuan Shikai's grandson, his name was John Yuan, and my my father, Xun Ziping, both attended the University of California at Berkeley. And wouldn't you know it, they became fast friends. And John Yuan, Yuan Shikai's grandson, became my father's best man at my father's wedding to my mom. So grandparents can fight, but the grandchildren got together, became very good friends. Now, John Yuan went on to become a consul general in Hawaii and L.A., and then he eventually returned back to Taiwan and lived in Taiwan.
Yes, you did have a relationship with your grandfather, right?
Yes, Sun Fo. Yes.
Yes. Did he live with you or did you live with him in California?
Yes. Uh, Now, in 1949, the revolution from Kuomintang and communism. So my grandfather, prior to that, prior to 49, somebody tried to assassinate my grandfather a few times. So in 1949, instead of going to Hong Kong or Taiwan, my grandfather, Sun Fo, went into self exile, uh, traveling Europe for about a year. Eventually, he wound up going to Long Island, New York, where my father's two younger sisters were married and lived, Rose and Pearl. And so my grandfather lived in Long Island for a few years, but he got itchy, I guess, to come out to California. So he came out to California by himself. And then my mother helped my grandfather get an apartment in Santa Monica. And he loved Santa Monica because I guess, and the ocean and Chinese food. And it was numerous. So for a few years, I had my grandfather to myself. Yeah, it was.
Wonderful to have, yeah, your grandfather Sun For to yourself. And speaking of that, I'm going to first thank you, but we're going to ask our next speaker to talk about assassination, Yuan Shikai, and the whole thing. So I'm going to invite Connie Yong Yu to come in to join us now. Connie, please. Thank you, Leland.
Yes.
Connie.
Yes. Hello, everyone. I'm glad to be here and introduce my grandfather, Yong Song Guang. This is a picture of him, and I knew him. I grew up with him when we were all living together, my grandparents and my family in Whittier, California. So this is a picture of my grandfather as a young revolutionary. He came to San Jose, California in 1881 at the age of 11, a laborer from a village in Heungsan, Guangdong province, 1 year before the Chinese Exclusion Act. When he was a teenage worker, his home base, Market Street, Chinatown, was burned to the ground by anti-Chinese arsonists. He fled to San Francisco, Chinatown, and lived and worked there, and joined fellow kinsmen who were supporters of Dr. Sun Yat Sen, who was from their home district of Hyeongsan, which we know now renamed Jongsan in his honor. Next, please. This is the family of Yong-sung Kwon in Chinatown, San Jose, called Heinleinville, 1914. My grandfather was now a merchant who owned a store that was also the headquarters of Dr. Sun's party in San Jose. That's my grandmother, whom he was able to bring over from China because of his merchant status, you know, the complexities of the Chinese exclusion law, which was trying to prevent families. But here they are. They were very proud of their two sons, Ming, the older boy on the left, born in 1910, a year before the revolution, and John, my father, born a year later. Next, please. This is a panoramic photo of Dr. Sun, father of the country, with local comrades, as written in the caption, local comrades in San Jose. This is in San Jose. I just want to show you, this is a large panoramic picture, you know, and I wasn't able to put it, you see, in those days, they had the technology to make these incredible photographs. There are over 100 people in this photograph. And Dr. Sun had a strong base in San Francisco. And here, this photograph was in Portsmouth Square, probably early 1911, when he was about to, again, go throughout the United States to raise support for his revolution. And of course, he got the news that it had succeeded in Denver, 1911, October 10th. So next slide, please. So this is the other half of the photograph. And you could see, it's Dr. Sun not even in here, but could I have the other one back again? Just want to make sure. Okay, well, anyway, there's Dr. Sun, very prominently in the middle. You see, right there on the left, right there. And then the next slide, please.
He is in that picture too. Can you see, Connie?
Yeah,
it's right there.
So I wanted to point out, thank you, that the copy of this photograph was given to me by Grace Lee in 2014 in Palo Alto. She was 90 years old, and she wanted to point out in this photograph, the girl on the young girl in the top row with the bow in her hair, that's her mother. And then next to her mother is her grandmother. This is on the right side of her grandmother near the Chinese flag. And she wanted to say that they were so inspired by Dr. Sun because they revered him because he was for the liberation of women. He was against foot binding, and he promoted equal education for girls. And he was just inspiring to everyone. And he had founded the newspaper, The Young China, a daily newspaper in San Francisco. And one of the editors, whom I spoke to many, many years later, recalled Dr. Sun being such an exemplary person, so inspiring, and that everything was to sacrifice for the revolution. He inspired them in this way. He said he didn't need to stay in a fancy hotel, but he'd rather stay with his kinsmen in a lodging house. He didn't need to have a fancy banquet. He said, save the money for the revolution. Okay, next slide, please. Here's a photograph of the young supporters of Dr. Sun Yat Sen from San Jose at the first 10/10 parade in San Francisco. And you see that's Lin Shu, the woman on the right. She's the only woman in the club. and that's her brother, George Shue. They were young idealists inspired by Dr. Sun's principle of democracy. They were both born in the United States. They both graduated from UC Berkeley. Next, please. Okay, another large panoramic photograph, and it's in my framed and in my home, and it has several hundred people in it, and it is it's taken at the Pan-Pacific International Exposition in San Francisco in 1915 of the Chinese Nationalist Party. And next slide, please. And there's a close-up of you could see in the front row, there's in front row center, that's my grandfather, Yong-sung Guang. It was his proudest moment as one of the leaders in the United States of the Chinese Nationalist Party, the Kuomintang. And at the exposition were also his wife, my grandmother, and her two boys, my uncle and my father. They were like 5 and 3, and I heard stories from them. I know my father may not have remembered, but my grandmother said it was the most exciting event she had ever attended. And my grandfather was so proud, and he kept the souvenir book and his badge from that proud moment, and I have it in my collection. Next, please. So now to the intrigue after the revolution. This is a portrait of let's say, he was a young revolutionary and a hero to the secret society at the time for Sun Yat Sen. And this is his name. We knew him as Buck Hoy. And I visited him with my father. This is when I was in high school. I didn't know why we were there. This was in a apricot orchard in Santa Rosa somewhere. And my father said, "You have to meet this young man, this elderly man who was a friend of your grandfather's and much revered by other people, but who was a fugitive all his life." So there he's sitting proudly. And when he was, I guess, in his 20s, he volunteered to assassinate an envoy of Yuan Shikai, who was coming to San Francisco in 1914 to raise support to oppose the principles and the party of Dr. Sun Yat Sen, because Yuan Shikai at that time declared himself emperor and just wanted to purge all the revolutionaries. So the story that he told, and the next slide, please. And my father, and that's John C. Young, and my mother, who's taking the picture, and my brother was also sitting in the background. My father said, "I want you to hear him tell the story." And so here I am, a teenager. I'm not quite, I always knew about my grandfather being a patriot and a patriot of China and a dedicated follower of Sun Yat Sen. We had pictures all over our house. And then, but I didn't know about this story. And so Buck Hoy said, "Well, this was I was ready to do this, and I volunteered." And the envoy was having dinner at this restaurant on Grant Avenue. Okay. Well, anyway, when he was coming out with his entourage, I had a gun in my pocket and I shot him. And then I threw it away, had an orange in my pocket, peeled it, wiped the gunpowder off my hands and melted into the crowd, and I escaped and went into hiding. So that's a story that I heard. And of quite astounding. And here's a slide of that shows the commemorative box of my owned by my grandfather, and it has the last will and testament of Dr. Sun Yat Sen, and there's a button that was worn by my grandfather at the memorial for Dr. Sun Yat Sen, who died in 1925 in China. But there are memorials, deep mourning throughout the world. And this was a large event in San Francisco, and my grandfather attended it. And this button was in this box that I have for over 100 years. Next slide. So this is a statue of Dr. Sun Yat Sen, and there's a group of us. This was taken when we were filming the documentary that I directed called Dr. Sun at Liberty's Door, An American Legacy. And in the middle is my brother, Al Young, who was able to say the words in the beginning of the movie, "My grandfather was a revolutionary." And on the right is the filmmaker Barry Fong, who's also, a son of descendant of pioneer family. And I wanted to say something about this statue, which was built by Benjamino Bufano in 1937. It was funded by the Kuomintang Party in San Francisco. And the artist, Bufano, was a friend of Dr. Sun Yat Sen. He knew him as when Bufano was a young artist working and living in China in 1920. And he was so inspired by Dr. Sun's principle. Dr. Sun met him and said, Bufano said, "I want to join your army because I know he's been attacked by the warlords." And Dr. Sun said, "No, you don't have to join my army. You can take a portrait of me." So, and then of course, afterwards, Dr. Bufano was always inspired and always wanted to do something to remember Dr. Sun Yat Sen. So this is the statue that's in St. Mary Square right in Chinatown, San Francisco. Next slide. Okay, this is the first picture of my family when we came to San Francisco and we lived in Chinatown. My father wanted this picture, and you see at the base of the statue of Dr. Sun Yat Sen is the inscription with the story of Dr. Sun. And that's my father carrying my brother Alfred, and that's my sister Janie, and that's me standing right there. And then my mother, and both my mother and father always told me these stories about Dr. Sun and our heritage and our pioneer ancestors. And I have become a historian because of oral history, all through oral history. I also wanted to say that my father carried on the ideals of Dr. Sun, of community involvement and being a leader of your community for the welfare of the people. He spearheaded the project for the War Memorial, which is in St. Mary Square, right near the statue of Dr. Sun Yat Sen. The War Memorial is to the fallen servicemen of Chinese ancestry who made the ultimate sacrifice in World Wars I and World War II. My father was the commander of the American Legion. He was a lieutenant colonel in the Army Reserves at the time. He was a veteran of the Theater of Operations, CBI, and was a liaison officer and an ordnance officer at the Battle of Chongsan, where the U.S. Army, and the Chinese Army dislodged the enemy from the Burma Road. And, it was one of the great battles that led to victory in World War II. So that's our proud legacy and the continuation of the inspiration of Dr. Sun that continues to this day, certainly in my generation and beyond. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Connie. Just wanted to also ask you to talk about your name, Connie Young Yu. Can you talk about Young, please?
Okay, yes, Young is that's my maiden name. You know, I'm the daughter of John C. Young and Mary Lee Young, and my grandfather, whom I loved and knew very dearly. And he passed away when I was 10 years old, and I was so grief-stricken. He was the kindest, gentlest man I ever knew. I couldn't believe later that he was, you know, in this revolution and knew, you know, I guess he was a great supporter of the revolution and fighting the opponents of Dr. Sun, and was a friend of Buck Hoy. So, but I always revered him, and he really, and I knew that he inspired my father immensely, and my uncle, who also wanted to serve China and was one of the early pilots trying to develop the fledgling Air Force in Canton, and he was killed in 1937 in a reconnaissance mission. But he was born in San Jose. They both were patriots of America, but also,
Yes.
you know, in this legacy when U.S. and China were allies. And so the name Young, yes, Young,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
I carry very proudly.
Yeah. Young happened to be the last name of the first ever Chinese who came to the United States to study. That's your family. So
Yes,
you
it's
have a,
Young Wing. We're very proud to say that the Young Wing came from our district, and we somehow, in our long lineage, had kinship.
yes, wonderful. Thank you. So next, we like to invite Dr. Busaba Yip, who was born in Thailand of Chinese descent. She is now in Hawaii. So aloha, Busaba, please.
Hello, aloha from Lahaina, Maui, Hawaii. It's an honor to be with you all today. Thank you, Dr. Lily, for the kind invitation to share our history and story of Dr. Sun Yat Sen, Hawaiian Chinese and Wohen Society. So celebrating, honoring Dr. Sun Yat Sen is father of modern China is one of the event, a special event we do at the Wohen Museum for many years before the Lahaina Wi-Fi 3 years ago. So it's very special today that we can share our beautiful memory. So, so next slide, please. So we like to share a little bit the history of Hawaiian Chinese. The first document of Chinese immigrant majority came to Hawaii from Canton, Guangzhou. The first document of Chinese immigrant we found in the Big Island in 1788. They came as workmen, carpenter, artisan, and sailors or cook. In 1792, the trading of sandalwood began China and Hawaii. The history of Sun Yat-sen started in the mid-1800s. That's the timing. 1852, a last group of Chinese came to Hawaii, working in the sugarcane plantation. So you may ask why all these Chinese escaped from China, because there was no hope at that time. People dying, starving to death, including my ancestor. Many generations, they suffer. So that's the situation for the Chinese have to escape looking for a better life. When I was young, I remember I saw the picture of Sun Yat-sen at my parents' house. And I did not realize how important, because he opened the gate for all the Chinese have a better life. I will share with you more what I learned from our research that we work. Next slide, please. So in Lahaina, a lot of Chinese, when they came, they work in the sugarcane, but when the contract ends, they move out and start business, beginning of Chinatown. So right in Lahaina, a group of Chinese and the two founders, Chanwa and Chung Kun Yu, formed the Wohing Society as a benevolent society. Like many society at that time, it's very significant in helping each other and connecting to motherland. Like the people will come here to write letters, get news from home, and also during the Sun Yat Sen Revolution, this is one of the important organization that's supporting him. So in the mid 1940s, a number of Chinese start to move away from Lahaina town. So the Woheng Society are almost damaged by termites. So thank you, the Lahaina Restoration Foundation and the Woheng Society has agreement to restore the building turned into museum 1984. That's my journey start when I came to Lahaina after my PhD in 1998 of not knowing it's a calling to be here, to do some very important work to keep the history alive. We'd like to share a little bit more. Next slide, please. It was very sad and heartbroken. The Lahaina Wi-Fi 3 years ago damaged the Wohing Society Hall, Temple, and Museum, together with the whole historic Lahaina town. Every time I saw this picture, tears came down. But after 3 years, my tears transformed. Its turn bring us hope. We have hope for the future. Thank you, the Lahaina Restoration Foundation and the Wohing Society, the secretary with the board member working very hard to planning to restore our society hall. So we went back to the land of the Wohing in the Lahaina fire last month with the president. It's not look like this picture now. We're so happy it's all cleaned up, ready to rebuild. That is the hope we have and like to share with you. And thank you all for your support. And we will continue to do our best to bring back the history while we're waiting the building to rebuild. So this is significant that you invite us to come and share our story, so we can continue share the history to the world. Next slide, please. Honoring Dr. Sun Yat Sen when we do our special event. Thank you, Theo Morrison, the Executive Director of the Wohing, of the Lahaina Restoration Together Wohing, get some grant money. So more than 20 years when I worked there, we start to do a lot of cultural events, and honoring Sun Yat Sen is one of them. So these are samples of the historical records that 2,000 of them were found at the Woheng Society Hall when the Lahaina Restoration Foundation came and restored in 1983. And thank you that they survive and they keep the history that passing down for us to relearn what our ancestors left for us, so we can learn what it means for us today and for future generation. A number of booklets related to Dr. Sun Yat Sen. in the year 2000 when we start to reorganizing and do the preservation and inventory, I found one very interesting financial minutes and record. They're talking about at that time, the Chinese in Lahaina, they divide into two groups. One group supporting Sun Yat Sen, one group supporting the emperor. So it's not safe for them to say they're supporting Sun Yat Sen. That was very difficult to find any records to prove, to show the history. So we are thankful some of this record is very important for us to learn from and how difficult the life at that time and with the situation of the revolution. So when the fire happened, burned the Woheng Society, Hall Temple Museum and Cookhouse. The next slide, please. I'd like to share the next slide is show the next slide, please. This is one of the information we found from our research. We have two research that we do. The first research about the history of the Chinese and Woheng, and the second research is about the 2000 pieces of record and how the Sun Yat-sen history weaving into all this old record. We found the picture, the black and white on the top is the first Woheng Society Hall that Sun Yat-sen came have a secret meeting. Even all the wooden plaque and couplet, they all burned in Lahaina fire. But we have the story to share with you today because at that time we did not know how important we have to do the research. Thank you all the visitors, a number of visitors who came to the Woheng Museum. They helping us sharing their knowledge and help us do the translation and we can see the history in a more holistic way and the connection of all pieces of the record from the booklet to the plaque and couplet that also with other artifacts that left at the Woheng Society Hall. So we found this was the first Woheng Society Hall, and then the cookhouse have many old artifacts and wooden plaque couplet also refer to during Sun Yat-sen time. It's very important for all the Chinese to unite and helping each other. Next slide, please. So this is show more details about what we learned from our historical research related to the elder brother Sun Mei. We like to honor Sun Mei is a silent hero behind Sun Yat-sen. When we first came to the research, we don't know, not many people know about Sun Mei, who he was, and how important he had an important role for Sun Yat-sen. So Sun Mei arrived in Hawaii in 1871, only 17 years old. And he's a poor farmer among thousands of Chinese. Okay, he worked very hard. He saved money, and then he helping his uncle. And after 10 years in Honolulu, he saved money. And during that time, they started sugarcane plantation, as I mentioned, but no workers. So he went to China, brought a lot of workers, came to Hawaii. Each worker, he received $100. He saved all the money, and after 10 years, during the 10 years in Honolulu, Sun Yat-sen came when he was only 12 years old, 13 years old. So Sun Mei helped Sun Yat-sen when he first came to Honolulu, and then after he went back to the medical school, and Sun Mei continued supporting Sun Yat-sen. When Sun Mei, after 10 years, moved to Maui, and I like to share more later on how when Sun Yat-sen started, there were 10 uprisings in China before 1911. And when he started the first uprising failed, no home for him. So he left China, went to Japan, and came to Hawaii, Maui, that stay at his Sunmei, his elder brother Sunmei Ranch. And he has to move. That's a picture at the bottom on the left-hand side. That's the family of Sun Yat Sen. Sun Yat Sen moved the whole family to Maui, lived at Sunmei Ranch until 1907. Because at that time, the Manchu Qing dynasty want to kill the whole family if they know you supporting, Sun Yat-sen. So for safety, that they have to escape, and so lucky they can come to Maui. And I'd like to share the two very sad, this historic plaque at the bottom on the right-hand side, already burned in the Lahaina Wi-Fi. It shows how significant when Sun Yat-sen came, they start the organization, the revolutionist organization. And then this plaque show the history far back, the revolution called the Hong Moon or Hong Men, the 5 months of the Shaolin Temple that survived and start this organization far back in China. So when the Chinese came, they carry the organization in Hawaii. So when Sun Yat-sen joined the Hong Moon or Qigong Tong, all the Chinese helping him. And the other little plaque is honor Guan Gong. Guan Gong is the leader of the Hong Moon at that time. So now we understand how important the teaching of Guan Gong or Guan Wu is loyalty and righteousness. So how significant this plaque for us to learn about the history and to honor all the Chinese at that time, who supporting the revolution. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Can you hear? Okay. This slide shows one of the book confirm all the Chinese society hall on Maui. In Hawaii, there are more than 30 society hall at that time. And on Maui, have 6, 7 of them. So on this booklet show is a Wailuku Second Town Chinese Brotherhood island-wide donation records. It shows how each society coming to help each other. The Wailuku Qigong Town Hall is a picture on the left-hand side that the building already is not there anymore. So the Woheng Society, so thankful that the Woheng Society will come to take care, rebuilding this historic site again. So welcome to join and be a part to bring the history come to life. Please go to the Woheng Foundation and join about the plan for the future rebuilding this Wailuku Qigong Tong, which is one of the headquarters at that time during the Dr. Sun Yat-sen Revolution. On the right-hand side is the Kok Heng Society Hall in Kula. I'd like to thank you all the Chinese up in Kula that really play an important role also, sharing their pictures, their record about Sun Yat-sen, the history. So this was the first society hall that Sun Mei and Sun Yat-sen were the members of this society hall. And today they rebuilt the second society hall, and it's the only society hall left here on Maui after the Woheng Society was burned down. And they continue to do all the work in keeping the history alive here on Maui. The next slide, please. The next slide, please. So to honor Dr. Sun Yat-sen and Sun Mei, the history is really complicated at that time. And many Sun Mei, when he first came, had no money, but at the end, after he moved to Maui, after 10 years in Honolulu and moved to Maui more than 25 years, he was able to own a 3,900-acre ranch in Kiokia up in Kula and was named as the king of Kula of Maui. And he was able to get a full birth certificate for Sun Yat Sen at that time because of the exclusion law came to Hawaii and not allowed Chinese to travel. So Sun Yat Sen had many names at that time, and he has to escape, and the Chinese really hiding him, protect him everywhere in the history for safety because the Manchu sent the spy. So he always, and Sun Mei was able to provide this birth certificate that Sun Yat Sen was born in Hawaii and as a medical doctor practiced in Kula. That's a very interesting history to learn from. The next slide, please. So this is the show Sun Yat Sen's sixth visit to Hawaii from 1879 to 1910. Actually, there were more than 6 trips that he came to Hawaii. Start from when he was 13 years old, went to school the first trip, and he went back to study, to the medical school, and he came back from the first revolutionary society in Hawaii. Sing Chong Hui is his third trip, okay? And the fourth trip that he brought the family here for safety after the first uprising failed. 10 uprising in China that failed before 1911, or the double 10, that he made 2 more trips before the last revolution that he overthrown the Manchu. The 5th trip, he reorganized all the revolutionist organization, joined together, formed the Revolutionary Army. They would like to honor him the way his idea and his vision so strong, and he never gave what he dreamed for China to have a better future. So the 6th trip that he found the Tongan, the Hawaiian chapter, that's the timing that he combine all the students or the revolutionist group and join even the group that's supporting the emperor to join him. So he was a great man with his that make all the Chinese follow him. Not only he went to Southeast Asia and came to Hawaii and to San Francisco, New York, in the US, to Canada. And actually, a lot of people that the visitor who came to the Woheng, they're from Africa, Latin America. They know Sun Yat Sen because a lot of the ancestors were sent to Africa and Latin America working as slaves. You can look the book called Coolie Speak. So you can see that the trip ups, this show that Sun Yat Sen traveled all over the world at that time. Why he did that? Because he want to, the first thing is fundraising. The second thing is to unite all the people to support the revolution. The next slide, please. So this is a picture to show how significant the Sun Mei Ranch in Kiokia. So thank you for all the Chinese friends and family who sharing with us these old pictures of the history, okay? And in particular, thank you, Richard Chim, in the picture there. We went to the Sun Mei ranch today. Sun Mei moved to Maui in 1881 and owned this 3,900-acre ranch, and more than 25 years, okay, that he owned this ranch. At the end, he has to file bankruptcy and return to China with no money. So this picture shows during the ranch is the center, one of the main center of the meeting of the revolutionists. And it's a place to nurturing Dr. Sun Yat Sen, after all the uprising failed. He came here, his brother Sun Mei provide him spiritual support besides the financial support. And that picture on the top right-hand side, it shows when the Kuomintang party organized, all the Chinese help come and have a celebration. And you can see a lot of children because Sun Mei is a very kind man. People love him. Many beautiful story about him and Sun Yat Sen. So he opened a school also, helping the children there at that time. And another story we like to share, Richard Chim shared with us. Possible Sun Mei ranch, 3,900-acre ranch from the top of the mountain to the ocean. He built the road called McKenna Road from his ranch to the ocean. So that's why Sun Yat Sen can escape, came to Maui anytime, nobody know. So the McKenna Road is one of the significant, story we like to honor Sun Mei and all the Chinese there at that time. And the next slide, please. Today, to honor the history of Sun Yat Sen and Sun Mei on Maui together with all the Chinese and supporters, we have a Sun Yat Sen Park, Memorial Park. And we have a statue of Sun Yat Sen and Sun Mei there to honor the history. So each statue today have more than 200 statues of Sun Yat Sen all over the world. Thank you, the descendant of Sun Yat Sen and all the supporters who continue, honor, remember the history and share to the world. And this statue have a educational writing of Sun Yat Sen, carry the history and the teaching of Sun Yat Sen about love, peace, harmony. Next slide, please. So these are another two statues on Maui, one at Kapaniwai Park, and the one on the right-hand side is so sad. During the Lahaina fire, this statue was burned down. But we are thankful. The spirit of Sun Yat Sen and still alive there to keep us move forward with hope for the future and sharing, honoring, remembering our story. The political idea of Sun Yat Sen is come from weaving the traditional teaching of the Tao into the recent idea of politics into the three principles of the people. So this is significant to us for the new modern China, not only for China, for the whole world. The next slide, please. The next slide talking about Sun Yat Sen testimony. He said, for 40 years, I have devoted myself for the cause of the People's Revolution to a position of freedom and equality among nations. My experience during these 40 years have firmly convinced me that the work of the revolution is not yet done. So I'd like to honor this Sun Yat Sen vision and dream, and Sun Wan is his Chinese name. And the next slide, please. Sun Yat Sen dream is for the world, universal peace and global harmony. For our universal love, 天下为公, the world belongs to all. universal peace and global harmony was Sun Yat Sen dying wish. We can move forward to carry this dream for a more democratic nation with respect for one another and sharing responsibility, the destiny of our motherland. Our children may enjoy happiness and the world may know peace. Thank you very much. สวัสดีค่ะ Aloha.
Yeah,
谢谢。
sawadika. Thank you, mahalo, very much. We have so many wonderful discussions and presentations, and we're really running out of time. But Kathy, if you have one question and comment, maybe we can share one for the speakers. Kathy?
Yes. So in the chat, Adele asked, wonder how your grandfather would view the capitalism of Hong Kong and Taiwan today. And this question, yeah, it was from Adele.
So Adele asked Leland's son to answer the question. Leland, are you still there?
Yes. I didn't hear the question.
So Kathy, can you say it again slowly?
Yeah, for sure. I wonder how your grandfather would view the capitalism of Hong Kong and Taiwan today.
I think he would, how do you say, welcome it for Hong Kong and Taiwan because, how do you say, there's no restrictions. In fact, even in mainland China on businesses.
All right. Thank you so much. We're running out of time, but you can see that this is going to be an ongoing series every March of every year. So we hope that we can answer some of your questions later, maybe. But today, I want to thank all the speakers and the discussants for coming in, and also more importantly, our participants who are able to join us for this glorious day to celebrate a wonderful man that we all consider the father of the founding of the Republic of China, Dr. Sun Yat Sen. Thank you so much. We are going to ask the speakers and discussants to remain with us and the rest of the participants. We hope to see you next month when we discover the chefs who cook for the White House. Thank you so, so much.
Thank you, Lily.